Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Welcome to Filmbuff Live here on Filmbuff. I'm your host, as always, William Patrick Coleman. And today we have a
Hello.
very, very, very special guest star. Miss Amiee Conn is here. My favorite. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm very good. I'm very good. It's very good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
How's things?
Things are better this week.
Yeah.
Last
Oh, good.
week.
Good.
A lot of moon shit going on. Beautiful moon tonight. But yeah, no, other than that, good stuff otherwise. Just living life day by day.
All right, good. Good to hear. Awesome. Well, today, first of all, our guest, Amiee, is a I would call a very successful actress. She's been in several notable projects, including La La Land, the Oscar-nominated La La Land. She's also been in the People vs. O.J. She's been in Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23.
Yes.
And she also had a little bit of a run of success in the rock opera Once Upon a Time.
Yeah, the unofficial Once Upon a Time rock opera.
Yeah, where she played the evil queen. She was pretty badass at it too.
It was a great
Pretty badass at it.
Oh yeah. Lots of
so
fun.
very, very excited to have you on.
Thanks.
Is there a little bit of feedback?
You sound great on my end.
Okay.
I don't hear any feedback on my end. I'm not sure for anybody else.
Okay. Well, I believe everybody here can join in on the conversation because our topic today is movie theater adventures, or the theater adventures, or some stories that we've experienced during visiting movies and movie theaters. And I wanted to talk about this topic because you talk to a filmmaker or an actor or anybody, they will say that, or any film fan, they will say that the movie theater is very comparable to church. It's always described as church to a film fan, and I completely agree. I'm definitely one of those people that feel that the cinematic experience adds so much to the title you're watching, whether it's a engaging theater or it's the surround sound or what have you. It adds so much. You could go in there and completely feel different about a movie as you would if you watched it at home. And we are definitely in a time right now where that is kind of being threatened a little bit. It's been going on like that, I believe, for a long time. But first of all, I've worked at, I think I counted 9 different movie theaters.
Oh wow!
Love working at movie theaters. Love it. I've had some of the greatest times. Went from usher to supervisor to concession to projection work many times. In fact, I was a projectionist when the switch over from film to digital happened. So Ice Age was the first.
Oh wow!
Ice Age was the first movie to become digital print. That was 2002. Yeah, and that was a very scary time. But now we're in another particularly scary time.
Right.
Just to give everybody I did a little bit of research on the topic of the movie theater industry and where we're at right now, because of course the pandemic has shifted things.
Right.
When the pandemic happened, I was working at a movie theater when the pandemic happened, and we had to shut everything down.
Right.
And the revenue of a movie theater had gone down 71%, and it lost $32 billion.
Wow.
They say that that was due to the pandemic alone. It was having issues before that.
During the pandemic, that's what. It was.
Yeah. Before then it was having issues, but now, and they said something I was reading compared to something like NASA. A NASA project or NASA itself is $30 billion. So add two more to that. That's how much the whole theater industry has
Is
lost.
that just Hollywood, or was that also like New York Broadway?
Oh, that was, yeah. Well, that New York. I know that New York and Hollywood were a main factor in that, but we're talking everywhere.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Um, we lost out on companies like ArcLight Cinemas and Alamo Drafthouse, and even the biggest theater chain, AMC, had to ask for a $900 million loan to stay afloat. Those were dark times. I know just recently, was that?
As a dark times indeed, and people like forget about it. That just happened a couple years ago, so we're still all feeling that in different ways.
Now, I know recently we've come into a bit of a interesting turn of events with Top Gun being released.
Yeah.
And single-handedly, I don't have the stats here right now, but single-handedly kind of brought a lot of moviegoers back to the theaters. And I find that kind of ironic that the sequel to a very, what do they say?
Comments. All right. Anthony, hey. Says, I used to go to the movies till 90% of the movies are PG-13 and teenagers are very disrespectful while at the movies, but the theaters are a great experience. Yeah,
that's true. You do run into those situations. You run into situations like the downside of movie theaters, like
sure.
you know, your atmosphere, the people you are in company with, concessions and the prices are a big deal. Although it's interesting to note that concessions are about, I think, 80% of the money that's made there, probably more.
Wow,
actually.
really?
Yeah.
Well, especially ArcLight. I mean, you could get drinks there at that certain portion of the areas. It was like more than just a movie theater.
Yeah, well, it got to the point where they had to open cafes there, and they had to make other things associated with that to kind of justify their prices. But
yeah, I mean, I grew up where tickets were $4 to go see the movie, and that was special when we could. And my mom would make popcorn at home, and we'd put it in her bag, and we'd bring our Pepsi because we couldn't afford the. It was just too outrageous anyway, even if you could afford it. But even the fact of we really just want to go see the movie, you know, and we do want some little snack, but you know. Something little is fine. Bring your favorite chocolate or bring those because it's too much. But that's the same thing when you go see a sports show, you know, sport event. You go see Dodgers, it's $15 for a Budweiser or something, you know, that's like.
I imagine you have the same issue. I imagine you would have the same issue even.
Yeah, it's like I mean, you can't bring your own shit in like they used to, but apparently but at the same time, it's kind of like, I understand why people try because it's outrageous. I mean, it's not a special type of beer or special type of, you know, popcorn or whatever. It's just, you want the ambiance and you want to save up for the whole thing, but it also hurts a lot of people during the dark times we're in and the hard times, realistically. So.
And it's really understandable. And we have things now like the streaming. Hi, Wizzo. We have things like the streaming industry has come in, Netflix, Amazon, all these Amazon Prime and all this have come in and kind of taken over. I feel like they're sharing, really, but the statistics here would not necessarily agree. At the same time the movie theaters are going down, streaming services have made $34 billion alone. That's two more than movie theaters have lost.
Right.
So that's, I mean, the numbers don't lie there. That's kind of really interesting to note that people, we're in a time now where, they want to save money and they want to watch the content. Thank God, you know, thank God that's still relevant. And I'm not totally against the streaming services because streaming services provide opportunities for independent filmmakers to have a voice that they wouldn't normally have, and things like that. And television has improved so much. I don't necessarily know that we can give credit to streaming services for that because HBO's been killing the game since early 2000s.
They're ahead, yeah.
But at the same time, you can't say that like there wouldn't be a lot of opportunity for us to watch things that we wouldn't have the opportunity to watch had they not been around.
Oh, it has changed it's like a tree, and like the next branch has been opened up by growing into a new direction, which is streaming service.
Yeah.
and versus studios and versus, you know, distribution companies, the way it was before. Like this has been going on every few decades, though. Even when the beginning of Hollywood, when the talkies came, that wouldn't last.
Yeah.
Movie
Yeah.
with sound, that would not last forever. People thought that was a joke.
Yeah.
It changed the
Color.
course of history for all the science and technology and arts from being able to use that, you know, so in a whole new field of the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
So it's very, I find it fascinating that we're in this time and trying to be an observer and be a part of it, but at the same time, it's aggravating because we as artists, we as business people, we as entertainers have to always adapt, whether we like to or not. And we have to go with what either society is taking
Yeah.
us
As a
on
collective is what they want to
as a
see.
collective, right. And so, and then you get to choose if you want to be a part of that or not, because the art
Yeah.
is always going to be around. Like theater, you said earlier how people say that movie theaters are like church for them. For me, it's kind of like, I grew up in theater. I stage theater as a kid into my adulthood. That is my church, quote unquote. Like I love going to a theater where there are seats and a stage or a screen, whatever the format is, because there's just something really energetic and magical about the spaces that are held for those entertainment purposes. And to me, that is like a church. Churches do that. That's their way of preaching whatever, you know, that's your piece of cake. Cool. But for me, it's theaters. It
Yeah.
always has been and it always will be.
And I don't know that many actors, directors, screen artists, people that love film in general, who are inspired to go into a career of film, who weren't inspired through cinema. I would say maybe at least 95% of them easily had an experience in a movie theater that changed their lives.
Right.
And if you let it, a movie in a movie theater experience will change your life easily. Horror movies, to have the ambiance of people around you be getting scared with you. Comedy.
Right.
Comedy is almost like a permission to laugh at something you don't know if you're supposed to laugh at or not. You know, with people surrounding you. That's not to say my favorite, the trailers. The trailers to me are super fun in a movie
I don't
theater.
like to come in halfway through the trailers if I can help it. I want to sit down. I want to have the lights on. I want to know, like, I like to begin the journey, you know, when you sit down. Or not even when you sit down, when you enter the facility, you know,
The auditorium.
in that ambiance. That's one thing I loved about ArcLight. When you walked in, you were there, you know, they presented itself to you as this is a magical place, not the real world anymore. You get to come in and you go into imagination mode.
Yeah.
And or learn about it from a museum observation point of view, because they used to have props and, you know, costumes from certain films in the lobby. And I always thought that was just so cool. That's so great that we can actually see the physical, tangible things that, you know, we'll look forward to when we see the film or that we already have. It takes you that much more closer to the real thing itself, being part of that magic. I know, hashtag RIP ArcLight. Amen.
Yeah.
It hurts my heart. I haven't driven by it for probably a couple of years now because I just can't. It hurts too much. It really does. And not to say like I live close to North Hollywood, and they have a beautiful old theater called Lamley, and a lot of it caters to independent films, but they always always show more than that too. But you get a membership if you pay, like, put $100 down on not a credit card, but their membership card basically. Then you get to use it for discounts there. You help their business. You're part of like the establishment. They get discounts left and right. And it's nice to be a part of kind of like that movie community, because you're helping it to stay alive, but you're also getting a lot of reward back from seeing these amazing films that you usually wouldn't see, say, at the ArcLight.
Absolutely.
You know? So those theaters are very important to me too, like the old marquee ones that you see all around LA or in any, you know, downtown of a main city, wherever you may be from. There's always that marquee. For me in Santa Rosa back home, it was the Roxy. My grandmother actually used to work there. So like it's really cool to see how theaters have evolved, but sad to see that some are so closing. It's like bookstores; they're all dying off, and I don't want to live in that world. You know,
Yeah,
like,
just recently, the
see
very
that.
first job that I ever got was at a Regal Cinemas. I was a
Mm,
teenager, and something that you don't know, as much as I love movies, I didn't get to go to them that often in theaters. Like I didn't get to go out that often, period. But when I did, and I get to go see a movie, it was a big deal. I could tell you what
yeah,
movie I saw, when it was, what theater I went to, and stuff. But then to
right.
get a job at the movie theater was like
Yeah,
it,
that
it,
was
it was yeah, it was crazy. And I got it during the summer of during the summer of 1999, which was a pretty important
that's
year
cool.
for movies in general.
Absolutely.
I was there when these movies came out in theaters. I was there when Sixth Sense came out in theaters, Blair Witch
Oh, wow.
Project, American Pie, American Beauty, Fight Club. Uh, when they all hit theaters, that was that year, and so that was a really pretty important year to be
That
even
is no, that was great. Yeah.
working in movie theaters. But yeah, I was saying that even things like the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Uh-huh.
That's a completely interesting experience.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
and
So good.
I was a manager at the movie theater, that local movie theater that did that,
Okay.
and I love those shows. Love the people that come into those shows.
Oh
That's the
yeah.
kind of
Audience
like
members are great in shows like that.
yeah, that's the kind of loyalty
It's part of
that
the experience. Yeah.
film fans have for theaters. And that's kind of a really good example. These guys can watch it at home, but they choose to be
Sure.
around each other. They
Yeah.
choose to celebrate something together, and they choose the
Yep.
theater to do it.
Yep.
That's like church
It,
today.
exactly. It brings them all together. They have a community that they all
Y-
get and they connect to.
Yeah. Do you have any like specific movies that you can remember that caused an impact on you in your life growing up that you experienced in a theater, and
Oh yeah.
that the theater was a big part of that experience?
The first one that comes to mind was when I was probably, oh God, I was like 3 or
Avatar 2,
4.
will it save the theaters?
Ah.
I don't know. Not with that 3.5 hour runtime they announced.
Ooh, yeah, I don't know anything
Three
about
and a
that.
half hours. I don't know. Sorry.
No intermission too, like the old days with the old films. They used to have
Yeah.
intermission like theater. No, the first thing I ever saw that I remember in theaters was the re-release of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It came out like 88. And I just remember being so in love with the Technicolor, like the color scheme of that whole film, the vibrant colors of her dress, the blues, the reds, the yellows, the purple, the golden, the apple, the evil queen, like all these colors, vibrance just were very impactful to me. Where one, that was my favorite story for so long and the history of actually how Disney made it and being the first animated feature film, and the history of the Technicolor aspect, and all of that was probably the biggest impact for me for a specific theater show or film that I've seen, because I was so young and so impacted at that age that I was like, I want all this. This is whatever this storytelling thing is with bright colors, and I love bright colors still today, that it made a positive impact on me, and that led to want to know what theater is later, and music, and the arts in general.
I remember that, by the way. I
Do
remember
you?
that re-release in the 80s. And I wonder, was there kind of, I mean, I was too young to really know, but is there kind of any kind of restoration in that back then?
I think there was. I know that the poster they re-released that year was full of like neon colors because it was the late 80s. And I had one of those posters for a long time. Like her dress was pink and there was like more pinkish in it. But the film itself, I believe it was the first remastered of its kind
Oh, okay.
since the first release, or because it was the first time it had been taken out of the vault. I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it's something like that, where it was very, very new to being in the movie theater scene again,
Yeah.
after all those years.
The original was still long before that, right? The
Yeah.
80s?
It came out, what, 39, 40?
That's
Something
right.
like
Okay. That's what I was thinking.
39, I believe. So, yeah. My grandparents saw it, when they were young. That's all I knew, but I loved it. And I'm a Disney nerd. I always have been since that day, but it had to do with the art itself. And then when I actually went to the Walt Disney Studios in Burbank for a project one time, and in their lobby, you can see one of the original cameras that they used, because it's kind of like, again, another museum that they have the props of like different films and TV.
You're talking Warner Brothers.
No, I'm talking Walt Disney Studios.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
On their sets. But yeah, their lobby had an original camera that, I don't know what they're called exactly, but the really long version. So that's how they got the 3D effect from the camera being way on top and shooting down.
Oh, okay.
It was amazing to see in person. Highly recommend taking a tour there someday, because it's amazing to learn the science behind just alone that, you know, how they created those scene works, let alone the actual art itself. You know, and I'm just, again, that's magic to me. The arts and science connected together is what real magic is in today's world, in my opinion.
No, you're absolutely right. It's the closest to real, absolutely real magic. Were you going into another story of?
No story?
Yeah, another story about the theater experience.
Trying to think. I remember Lion King too. I know a lot of Disney films. The Lion King was a big one. I remember that just opening sequence of the sun rising with that music and just being like, oh my God, what am I getting into? That Aladdin. Again, vibrant colors were really big to me as a kid.
I didn't see Lion King in theaters, but I remember watching Lion King and loving it so much that I didn't watch a Disney movie ever again until Pixar. Because Lion King was just, that was it for me. Like that movie was great, but I didn't see Hercules, I didn't see Tarzan, I didn't see Mulan, none of those. Yeah, so
have you sensed or not at all?
Yeah, I think some of them, my LionKing was my crack as a kid. Everybody's crack. Lion King was everybody's crack as a kid. Alex. There were some here and there I've seen. I did see Mulan eventually. I didn't see Tarzan. I didn't see Hunchback.
Yeah, I mean, they're fine and dandy. My opinion is that they're fine and dandy. They weren't catching me like the Golden Age did. And I think that was what was happening for a lot of people. It was just like, it's Disney, it's fun. But where's the Disney, like, Menken music and, that, I don't know, that all just really worked. And that's why they're making live actions of them now instead.
Shot for shot, even.
Yeah, shot by shot. Which I really love, and I commend that, because I don't know why, it gives me just like a little giggle inside of like, oh my God, that's exactly the shot that they, like, I would love to recreate shots. I think that's, in a way, respecting the original. If you do it, if it's the intention behind it for filmmaking, that's a choice, right?
There's a difference between something like Lion King and something like Psycho. Gus Van Sant's Psycho. There's a difference between something like Lion King and Gus Van Sant's Psycho, which is shot for shot the same thing. And that's a really expensive decision, I think.
Right, true.
to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, project by project. But yeah, I think it's cool when they can get, like, even J.J. Abrams did that with the original Star Trek, what he did with the first film for him. There were shots that, I'm a huge Star Trek nerd, and I was so happy and excited that he had shot scenes that were exactly replicating ones from the original series episodes with Spock and Kirk. It's really cool. Like, you're paying respect, you're doing your own thing, which we have to adapt to the new times. I get that, new generations.
But you're not ignoring why you were there in the first place.
Exactly. Thank you. Exactly. It's just more of a little nod, like, I see you, I respect you. Here's a treat for that. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. But here's a new story too. And I think that's cool. I respect that as an artist too.
Yeah, it's just a really expensive decision to make. But then you have things like Aladdin that take the opportunity to kind of try something new, and with doing something new, you put yourself at a giant risk.
Sure, it's
because Aladdin is like the original. First of all, they already had a problem trying to replace or put somebody in the place of Robin Williams.
Right.
Because the movie couldn't even contain that cartoon personality, cartoonish personality. You have to have a cartoon do it. But again, mad respect for trying.
No, kudos for trying. But the magic is where the magic is, and you can't fake the magic when it is what it is, And the originals are originals for a good reason.
What I was going to say about my original theater that I worked at just closed down. just closed down.
It just closed? Oh,
Yeah,
I'm so
because
sorry.
of everything that's going on, and there's a part of me that's
Yeah.
heartbroken about it, and there's a part of me that's like, well, that's my theater now. That's like mine. You know,
Mm,
I experienced so much life in that theater
yeah.
growing up, and even just recently, the last movie I saw there was Lightyear. So I had been there
Okay.
recently just to walk through it. But that was very sad to hear that. I was very
No,
sad to hear
that's
that.
again, like I said, they're sacred places to me. So when I hear anything of theater mode shutting down, that's very sad. Losing Blockbuster was sad to me.
Which
Back
one?
losing Blockbuster was sad to
Yeah.
me
And
because
so,
it was
like,
another outlet to have more films and entertainment, and you could choose. I mean, you can choose with Fire Stick now and all that jazz. I know I'm not saying that, but you
no,
know
no,
what I mean. It
and
was
I see
different.
what you mean. I was going to bring that up too because
It's
right
part of
now
it.
Netflix ironically has a show that's just started called
I just
Blockbuster.
saw that. I want to watch that. Yeah, I have
Isn't
to
it
check.
ironic that Netflix is the one that has
I
it?
know. I think they did that on purpose. I think they grabbed.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, I
I
think
hope
that's
so.
I think so too. That's the plug.
That's the plug.
But it's when I watch that, I'm like, it's still a cut that's so fresh, you know, like to
Exactly.
make a show about it is
Well,
like,
right. Well, it's definitely not
I
for
haven't
our
accepted that
generation.
it's
It's
happened
for the new
yet.
generation. No, I know. My first job out of high school was a movie store job for like at least almost a year, and it was not Blockbuster. It was Hollywood Video. I don't know
I
if you
worked at
ever.
Hollywood Video.
Oh, did you? I think we
Yeah, I
talked
worked at
about
Hollywood Video. Yeah.
yeah, and you know, it was a great first job. I at least was in. I liked that I was around movies, and I knew I was
Yes.
moving to LA, so I was like always surrounded by things I needed to see and wanted to see about filmmaking and about films at the time. And it was always inspirational to be like, I want my film to be here someday, type of thing. But it is sad that I can't go physically into stores anymore. Like I loved that part about going in to find movies, and maybe I mean I did do Netflix when it first started out a little bit. I was trying that out with the whole machine outside that you could find, you know, but it just isn't the same to me. It was like, okay, if you can find it on your TV, cool, we got that too. I still would like to go in someplace and find something. Like Bradley Video was my go-to when I was a kid in Sonoma County, and that's the video store I told you about that they filmed in for Scream.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was like they didn't change anything in that place when they filmed. They literally used it just as is. So it was great to see it as a time capsule. Now I can look back when I watched that film, Scream, and be like, oh, that's my old video store. You know, have fond memories of that place. So it's literally special now in that sense. But it's not there anymore. You know, of course, it's gone. It's been gone for years, unfortunately, and that's just part of the adaptation of our industry
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
But I don't
Um,
think theaters will go forever. I mean, I can see them dwindle, but there's just something too sacred. I hate
well,
using that word. It's not really the word I'm trying to find, but it's too special to just get rid of.
I think that
You can't.
there are
It's like
movies
saying get
that
rid
are
of the camera. You can't get rid of the camera.
specifically built to be watched in theaters.
It's true, exactly.
Like Marvel movies, you know, hate them or love them, you know, hate them or love them, they single-handedly might be keeping the movie theater business afloat.
True, true.
Because you just don't get the same experience on TV, number one, and number
No,
two, they
and I
make
don't care
just
what.
too much money.
I don't care too if you have a Hollywood, you know, house in the hills and you got that Hollywood theater inside. It might be good, but there is nothing like actually going to a theater, a public theater, and being part of the audience and being part of the actual room, because you get blinded, right? You're like on side blinded. You have blinders on. It's like just you and the screen and the
Yeah.
story. And I, as a kid, used to fall into the stories. Like I literally had biggest imagination where I would just be watching the movie in the theater and I would be that character. I'd place myself as the actor, whoever, as the kid.
Yeah, a good movie will capture you like that.
And you will
Absolutely.
be captured and it will be your story. And that's the magic again of it, that you just, and then you get out, you know, the lights come up and you're like, oh, I'm back home. I'm back in reality. Okay. And yeah, you can do that a little bit at home. It's not the same thing though. It's not the same thing, even close. But that's, I mean, like for example, my boyfriend Matthew, he just went to go see Black Adams.
Oh yeah.
At Lamley, and the independent theater I was telling you about. And he was the only one in there. It was like on a Tuesday evening, 7:00. And they're smaller theaters, but they're not terribly small. It's not like black box theater type deal. But it was the fact that he enjoyed it. He had a nice little date to himself, and he took himself out. You could get wine there, so you got some wine or beer. I think you got some beer and popcorn. Enjoyed him a nice evening, and then hung out with me later. But I was just like, I want to do that. Like, that's another thing that we all should do for ourselves. If you need to go have a date with yourself, go have fun.
I got a story that
week,
I got a story that's similar to that. I'll tell it real quick because I do have a list that I want to go through. But my mother had passed away, and it was a very, very sad time for me. And I kind of wanted to get away from the world, and so I went to the Dark Knight marathon.
Oh,
and I watched the Egyptian theater was showing it at the same time.
Oh, I love the Egyptian theater.
And
so good.
And marathons are a whole different thing. Like marathons are depending on the movies, but they're great. Oh man, they're. I went through and I turned my phone off and I sat there for 3 Batman movies by myself. Of course, there were people there, but it was very that was my calm.
Yeah.
The longest marathon I did the Die Hard marathon leading into the 5th movie. So I watched all 5 movies. It took all day. Yeah, it was crazy fun. It was in the ArcLight Dome.
I'd love to do that.
It was in the ArcLight Dome.
The dome was amazing.
Yeah.
Makes sense to that. Yeah.
That was super fun. And to prepare for tonight's show, I ran up a list of, because I constantly think back at times that I had such an amazing time, and it was because of the movie theater that made it a little bit extra. But I made a top 10 list of movies where I had a special time because of the theater going experience. But real quick, I do have 2 honorable mentions. One of them is The Devil's Rejects I saw with Rob Zombie and his wife in the theater. We had a film festival here in Las Vegas called the Cinevegas, and Rob Zombie was rushing his print over from California to Vegas because he had just finished editing it. So not only did I get to see it in the same audience with him and his wife, but I got to see it for his first time.
That's cool.
With him and his wife. And Nicolas Cage was in that audience also, and that was really fun. Another honorable mention is when Michael Jackson passed, they played Moonwalker in theaters, which was a fan movie that he made in the 80s, and I loved that movie as a kid. So to have that opportunity to see that in theaters was really
cool.
But I'll start with number 10 is in 2003 I got maybe 10 of my friends and stuff. I don't know if you've ever gone to a special advanced screening. Those are so fun, and the purpose of those is for studios to kind of get a gist as to how people are going to react to their movie. Also, get good word of mouth if they believe in it. It's to get word of mouth out for it.
Yeah, word of mouth. Never underestimate word of mouth, man.
Yeah, and I just liked seeing the movies before they came out. I was so obsessed with that, and the tickets were free. So you would get the tickets. I would get them, and I'd finagle a way to get more and more and more, so I can get a group of my friends to go. I think the only downside to this is that you have to wait in line for hours because they purposefully get more tickets than the auditorium can hold, so that they can guarantee it's going to be filled.
Right.
So you have to stand in line for hours and hours and hours, unless you get a group of friends and you're just fucking around. And so I got 10 of us, and we went to go see in 2003. We went to go see Final Destination 2.
I had a bad experience of that.
With that movie?
When I saw that film as a teenager, we went very last minute, and we got the front row seats, so that's why it was bad. Because there was just too much of
those movies
coming at you.
Yeah, those movies with an audience in the movie theater is so fun. Fun.
I'm sure. It sounded fun. I just couldn't experience it.
We were having so much fun in that movie. Number 9, I went to see the first date I ever went on. I don't know, maybe 14 or something. I went to go see Dark City. Have you ever seen that movie?
Dark City. Who's in that?
Dark City stars Jennifer Connelly, Kiefer Sutherland, William Hurt.
Jennifer Connelly?
And it was directed by Alex Proyas, the guy who made The Crow.
Wow.
Yeah, he only made like
I
3
did not
movies,
see
but
that one.
yeah, it's really good. And what happened was we were going. My parents were taking a group of kids. I don't remember if it was Boy Scouts or what. Anyways, my girlfriend, quote unquote, how much a girlfriend can be your girlfriend at the age of 14, was with us, and they were all going to see Titanic. Love the crowd. They were all going to see Titanic, and it was like 2 months after Titanic had came out, and Titanic was #1 in the box office for like 3 months straight.
Oh, yeah.
And we were like, "There's no way in hell we're going to sit through that movie again." Like, we'd already seen it. I think she'd seen it a couple times, and we were like, "No." And so as they went to Titanic, we snuck over to Dark City, and that was my first like date, and that was a cool movie to have it. Yeah, it was a really, you got to check that movie out. It's super fucking good. It's super great. Yeah. Number 8, you might like this.
Okay.
So I was a projectionist at a movie theater, and projectionists have the job of having to watch when we did film before digital. You had to film the print and piece them together, right?
Wow.
As they explain as they explain in Fight Club. Well, when you piece them together, you have to watch it to make sure you did it right. So after they close, every Thursday night, the projectionists would split up all the movies that they had built, and they'd watch them separately to make sure that they did it right. But I was new, and I didn't get to pick the movie I wanted to watch, so they picked for me. And I at the time was pissed. I was pissed at being the one who had to watch Amelie.
Oh,
However,
Amelie.
yeah, but this is I bring this up because this is a good example of never judge a book by its cover.
Absolutely.
And like, I was really big about not watching movies I hadn't seen the trailer for. Like, I hated doing that. Yeah, Bill,
you in there just no idea.
didn't know anything about it. There's only 2 movies I saw in movie theater like that. Amelie was one, Requiem for a Dream was the other.
Those are pretty good.
Those are free, yeah. And Amelie was one of those movies that put me in my place. I was so enchanted by that movie.
Wow.
And I had such an amazing time. If it wasn't being forced to watch it in the theater, I would never have watched it. And so to this day, that movie holds a special place in my heart because of that. At the time, I was really like anti-foreign movies without realizing that actually foreign movies are better than American movies, in all honesty. But Amelie was the one that did it. Amelie was the one that did it for me. And that was... to
have done it then. Like, that's special.
Number 7 is Freddy versus Jason. And at the time of promotion in 2003 for Freddy versus Jason, they actually did a real boxing like promotion thing where I got invited to it, and I got in the front row where like they came out and they weighed Freddy and Jason, like Robert Englund came out in the makeup and they weighed them, and they had interviews with them, and then it was like a press thing. But we got tickets to see the movie there. They gave us tickets to see the movie, and then we went to go see it, I think 3 months before it came out, before they had the ending on. So we left the theater not knowing really who won. But that theater was full of Freddy Krueger fans and Jason Voorhees fans, and it was ape shit. Like they horror movie fans, there's nothing like them. Yeah, they're and that was a really, really fun time. I always remembered that because of how they did the marketing.
Right. Marketing when it can be like that. That's smart.
It's really smart. The marketing does all the work for you, honestly.
Yeah.
Number 6, Avengers Endgame. And of course I have to put a superhero movie on here because, and this is a special time. This is a special time for me because when Avengers Endgame came out, the day Avengers Endgame came out was the very first day that Filmbuff Episode 1 debuted.
Oh!
And I did that on purpose. I wanted, because we talked about Avengers in the first episode, so I wanted to, it was the first day of the summer, so I wanted Filmbuff Episode 1 to come out the first day of the summer. And so I remember being, because I had spent a year making the show and yada yada, and I was a new father and whatnot, and so Shannon hadn't gone out since Jackson had been born, and I wanted to get away from once that episode was released, like I was done. Like I was done with the stress of it. So I released the episode. I turned off my phone. I turned off the internet. We had a babysitter for Jackson, and we went to go see Avengers Endgame in IMAX.
Nice.
Showing.
IMAX version too.
Yeah, first showing.
Nice.
And so we went there, and I got packed. It was super packed. Like we were definitely in the front row there. But the audience participation on these things Avengers Endgame is the culmination of like, and it wasn't Endgame actually. Yeah, it was Endgame. Yeah, it was Endgame. Avengers Endgame is the culmination of like 20 movies over like maybe 10 or 11 different, heroes or comic book characters or whatnot.
Very
And
complicated script.
yeah, and so they all joined in unison, and this particular movie, Avengers Endgame, was like the climax to all of their stories at once. And it was so special to be a part of that. And
yeah, totally.
And when an audience cheers for something that they built up for years and years, you get these shivers like of excitement.
Those are I haven't felt that for a long time.
Yeah, I know, but only a movie theater can do that.
Forever. I know.
I can't think of anything. I guess music junkies, music fans have that with concerts, but it's not the same for me because, first of all, I'm very claustrophobic. I get really nervous in concerts. But movie theaters, I'm just zoned in on the screen. Yeah. That was a very special time in my life for that to have experienced that.
I do miss that.
Number 5, and we are what time is it? We are a very adult-themed show. I had
10:43.
I had taken... I was a young kid, and I had taken hallucinogenics.
Oh.
And I had, during this same year, seen Fight Club for the first time on that.
Okay.
I had seen Sleepy Hollow for the first time on that.
Oh, that's a good one.
And I had seen House on Haunted Hill for the first time on that.
Can't do that one.
Yeah, well, I really learned my lessons real fucking quick. Like,
oh, that was
but like a movie theater experience will really fucking intense, man.
It made me that happened to me when I went and saw The Cell when it came out with Jennifer Lopez.
I love that movie.
And I want to love it, but I can't because of my trauma of being.
So the experience?
Yeah, because I went for my 13th birthday thinking I'm going to be cool and I went with my parents. They were my cool friends that came with me to my 13th birthday. But I went and saw it in the theater. So I was like, no, I'm going to go see a scary movie for my 13th birthday thinking it's going to be, 13, the number 13 scary and whatever. I had a theme going on. And I tried and I was stuck. I was glued in my seat when it really started being like graphic and visual because I didn't want to stay, but I didn't want to say to my parents that I wanted to go either. So I just held on to the seat and got through it and just kind of looked down a lot the whole time because of the graphics. And there's a lot, the visuals are terrifying.
That's a beautiful looking movie, but they are very terrifying images.
But terrifying images, exactly.
Yeah. And it's interesting to note that the movie plays very slow. It's a slow pace until she gets into that world.
The turning momentum is slow pace. It's grinding. It's weird. It works as a piece of a weird art, but for a 13-year-old, my mom was like this the whole time. My dad was just like not knowing what to do. So yeah, it was a bad experience. Funny now, but it was a bad experience then. It terrified me. Other than It was the other thing that did that to me when I watched it on my TV, though, by myself upstairs when my parents were asleep. But that was inside the house. It wasn't ever on the screen.
I was one of those people that missed that. Like, I didn't see it as a kid. I didn't, because it was on TV. If it was a TV movie, I didn't give it the time of day for some reason.
Yeah.
I watched it way later, but number 4, The Dark Knight in IMAX. I saw the first showing of The Dark Knight in IMAX, and this was really interesting because, again, we're seeing the very first showing. This isn't a special event screening. Like, I actually paid tickets and got all my friends tickets to see it.
Oh, cool.
Really drunk. I was crazy drunk. It was the midnight. It was a midnight screening. Jamie Foxx was in the audience.
Oh, nice.
And when they turned the lights down, they snuck Michael Jackson and his kids in the audience.
No shit. Really?
Yeah. And so, and The Dark Knight is a phenomenal piece of work. Like,
yeah.
To this day, I just absolutely admire that storytelling in that movie and the acting in it, and it's in IMAX. And so, like, we went in there, we loved Batman Begins, and we knew we were going to like Dark Knight, but we didn't know how much it was going to really leave a piece of itself in us. And so that was a very, very fun. I remember also the reason why I said I was drunk was because I was there with some friends. We got in, and then I went out to go get more friends in, but I left my ticket,
Oh no.
and they weren't letting me in the theater.
And that was before all the cell phone tickets.
Yeah, well, no,
Yeah,
well, the theater happened to be under like a hotel,
Oh.
so I was too far under I didn't have
Oh,
reception,
real. I
and
see.
they were in the theater. So like, unless somebody just happened to be like,
Yeah.
"Hey, where's Will?" and come out, like I was stuck,
Oh,
and I was
that's
like,
like
"Not the Dark
that's a
Knight,
scene
not
from
the
a
Dark Knight, not
movie.
this movie." Like, yeah,
You
and
got pulled in, and then you end up. That's like
I don't remember I don't
years.
remember how I got in eventually, but yeah, I remember that being a huge panic.
Yeah. All that
Uh,
work and you don't get to see it.
Number three, and maybe you can relate to this. Um, went to a screening for a movie called Jack and Me. Jack and Me is a short film that I was in.
Oh,
So
right. Okay.
I got to see myself on the big screen for the first time,
Okay.
like as a character that the audience would react to. And that was a very special moment for me, especially as a kid wanting to be an actor and
Yeah.
whatnot. I was also in Ocean's 11, but
Okay.
I was an extra, and that doesn't count. It's so like this is a movie I had a
You had
character and
experience
like
on a professional set though. A couple
so.
times.
But how did you feel when you got to see yourself on the big screen for the first
It's
time?
always weird to me.
Really?
And I'm very self-critical, so I'm very like, oh, that sounds weird. But that's where you let go and you do you, and you let the director, the editor do what they need to do, and that's part of the collaboration of the art of it. So I try to keep it in perspective. But the first time seeing it, seeing myself on screen was a TV show, so it wasn't big screen for me. It was like the first time I ever saw anything on the big screen was actually when I photo doubled for Jennifer Connelly in The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Oh,
And there's a huge, not a huge long scene, but the scene my arm, because I was photo doubling for her with a watch that they had to show for product placement. So I was doing these working out my arm this whole time, take after take after take to get the right angle. I did not know if it would be in the actual piece later on. But what was special about that was my parents came to visit because I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and we went and saw it, not knowing if it made it in or not, but it did. And my mom saw it before she passed away the following year. So that was the first time she actually got to see my work, quote unquote, on the big screen, let alone TV stuff, thankfully.
yeah.
That was special. So when La La Land came out, that was extra special, of course, because I feel like she helped a little bit in her own special way. But yeah, that was the first time ever seeing any physicality of myself up on the big theater screen like that. And it was special.
And to bring up like iconic movie theaters, first of all, I don't ever know if I don't know if I ever told you, I actually set an alarm, woke up early the day La La Land came out to see it in
Oh,
ArcLight.
oh, nice.
Saw it at ArcLight, and
Nice.
then
I did not
also
see the dark like though. I wish I would have.
my movie, the Jack and Me movie, which shout
Yeah.
out to the CSUN film department. It was Sean Boring, the director, and Adam Maskey, the producer. I saw it at the Hollywood Chinese Theater.
Ew, wow. See,
Yeah,
I
so
love those theaters. I've not had the chance to see any of my work up on that screen, but that's really cool. How
yeah,
fun. Yeah, I mean, that's
yeah.
just the history there is amazing. I'm a huge history buff, especially with like classic Hollywood history. The fact that you're sitting literally where so and so sat to watch this or that movie that you can I mean, we just went to my sister visited last week, and we went to the museum, the Academy Museum that they have the LACMA here now. And I highly recommend anyone who loves filmmaking or films to definitely go there when you have the chance to. It's an all-day thing. Make it an all-day thing for yourself, but just soak up and soak in all the love of what cinema art and filmmaking is, because they have so much there. We literally walked into the backdrop exhibit, which we're like, what's backdrop? Backdrop, okay. Backdrop, like theater backdrops, okay. We walk in and literally it's the what's the movie? Northwest by Northwest, or what, the Hitchcock movie.
Hitchcock, yeah.
Yeah, it was their backdrop of Mount Rushmore that is in the movie, like literally behind Cary Grant every single time. But just to see it in person, not knowing you were going to see it when you stepped into that room, like it was a beautiful surprise of seeing literal history in front of your eyes. There was an Oscar room, like Sidney Poitier's Oscars there, Gregory Peck, you name it. It was so massive, we didn't have the whole, like we went there for 4 hours. We didn't get through the whole museum because it was just so much to look through. But it's exciting that we live here, that we can go back whenever you want to. And then they have like a nice restaurant downstairs. So you have options, as a family or friend thing to do if you go, or take yourself there and have a nice day, But it was really cool to just soak up the history and to see the art that makes what we love about filmmaking,
That's great. That's super cool.
Yeah, it was. I get nerdy like that when it comes.
Oh, no, that's awesome. I think that's beautiful. I think it's super cool, man.
I love it so much.
I guess I have 2 more. And 2 seemed like a good idea to write at the time. I don't necessarily know now about. I lost my virginity in a movie theater.
Woo!
Yeah. So piggybacking off of what Wizzo asked earlier, if we ever had sex in the projection booth.
I was like, what is he asking?
Well, they're like, as the more I became a manager, the more I kind of took advantage of that. So I had that was like a thing I just like, because I love movies more than anything in the world. So I love
can be romantic.
Yeah, absolutely. But instead of naming the partners I had, I decided to name the movies instead.
The number, okay, gotcha.
The movies.
That's
the movies in particular were Scream 3, that I lost my virginity to. Edge of Darkness, which is a Mel Gibson movie. Semi-Pro, which is a Will Ferrell movie. What else am I missing? Daybreakers, which is a vampire movie starring Ethan Hawke, and so on and so forth. So I hope none of my exes are watching this and putting pieces together of the times and stuff.
Right.
But but those are some of my more memorable movie theater experiences.
Making just a whole other name on movie magic.
Yeah. When I was a manager at what was called our Dollar Theater, it was what Rocky Horror Picture Show played in. I would have to close it by myself. And I would just have friends come over, and they had movies to choose from. I say, you can pick which one. I'll reel it, and we'll watch it. We would just sit in the auditorium and smoke blunts and just watch movies all night and stuff.
That needs to be a sitcom right there.
Yeah, so it was a great time.
I mean, that sounds like the 90s, basically.
But to my number one, my number one best experience, and I've actually said this several times on Filmbuff before, I think 2 or 3 times, in fact, but the first movie I ever saw in theaters was RoboCop.
Yes, I remember you talking about that before.
Okay, so I told you about the story, how my father took me to see RoboCop for a father-son bonding moment, not realizing the movie had been rated X. And back then you were rated X for anything, violence or whatnot. RoboCop happened to be rated X for violence, like grisly, gruesome violence, and he didn't know that.
Okay.
So first 5 minutes into the movie, this big robot comes in and just blasts this innocent guy across the room, office room, and I had the time of my fucking life. I couldn't believe, and that was an eye-opening experience for me. And my mother was at home, and the preview came on and said rated X, and he got in trouble by the time we got home. But that left a huge impression on me. That movie in particular always holds a special place in my heart. But it was the theater-going experience that made me fall in love with that movie, made me fall in love with movies. It just was an eye-opener for me. It was a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have X anymore. X turned into NC-17.
Yeah, I was going to say I haven't seen X for a long time. They changed that a long time ago. But makes sense now. But
that was some of the, and then there's some here and there, like I saw the Matrix Reloaded and Fantasia 2000 on the IMAX screen, which a real IMAX screen is what Luxor has, which is the size of the building. It's a flat screen. Yeah, and some IMAX now here, I don't really know another IMAX that has it like that, because the seating was directly up and down. Like, there's people above you and people below you. You can't, if you get up to go to the restroom, you can't come back in because it just takes too long. You go with too many people. Yeah. So like it's this thing is fucking huge, right? So I would see that that's that was an honorable mention. Indiana Jones Last Crusade is one that I think of because my father and I saw it together, and that was a father-son, really father and son movie. Magnolia, anything Quentin Tarantino or Paul Thomas Anderson, see it in a theater. Like, absolutely see it in a theater. They make it so that you can enjoy it in a theater.
And that, well, even when like I was working at post-production job for a bit, I was just assistant, but I learned so much from the sound engineers and editors there that, you know, and these were people who had won Oscars for stuff. Like, these were legit people, Emmy-winning people in their profession. And they had said that even today it's hard to figure out the sound volume of, and I forget the terminology for it, but basically saying that they had their way of putting what they think is right in the rooms that they're operating in for the big screen. But then when that gets dwindled down to the streaming services, and we have those moments of like, oh, why does the commercials go so high in between? Like, you have to reset the volume, and it's really frustrating because it's not supposed to be for just this. Then it's hard to get it the perfect sound for your TV, whoever you're speaking to, because everyone's different, or we have different sound bars, or we have different sound systems. And like, it's just like in any filmmaking course, you learn that audio is just a very, very tricky thing to get right in general, you know, for filmmaking purposes. But I found that really interesting from the professionals speaking of their own experience of how frustrating it is. Yeah, formatting wars. Thank you, Alex. Exactly, formatting. It's crazy.
That is crazy. I never.
But it's just, that's why we have issues with sound still today. It's just they can't figure out, you know, the right formatting for all the technology we have, which seems weird and ironic and double standards and stuff, but that's technology.
That's super interesting. Yeah. Well, yeah. So, I mean, I wanted to do an episode just on the movie theater experience. Who knows how long it's going to be around? I don't think we will see it disappear completely,
No.
but I do think we are in the age of witnessing the beginning stages of change.
Yeah. Well, even with theater, I was talking to like for acting theater people in Los Angeles specifically, it's hard to even find theaters that are not $10,000 a theater to perform a play in, or, you know, a musical or whatnot, or just a cabaret, whatever you want to do. So theaters in general, not just movie theaters, but they're very expensive, or it's just not profitable at all right now, unfortunately, because of our society and the way. The pandemic didn't help, but it was already going that way anyway with technology that we have. I mean, the fact that we can watch TV and films on our phones is still mind-boggling to me. That's amazing, but it's mind-boggling.
And the fact that drama shows, every episode is like a mini movie now.
It's like, right. Like, we're watching the original Star Trek series because I like to go back and like see how they filmed things. And, you know, the fact that the TV back then was smaller and more bubbly, right? So the remastering now, you find little gems where, like, for example, the bridge of the Enterprise, there was some plywood that was not painted in black like it was supposed to, because they didn't need to, because it was cut off from the angle back in the day. Okay. But it was caught on film, so now that it's remastered with the dimension difference, you can see it. So it's just kind of funny, and I love those little things. I love Easter eggs like that. So to go back and find that, each episode is basically a mini movie. You know, it's 50 minutes, and there's 30 episodes each season, you know, and I kind of miss that because it was nice to really get a fleshed out story. And they do that now with some, but I guess I'm more of like, I liked when people didn't know what was going to happen next, and you had to wait for next Thursday, you know, to watch the next episode. And then you talk about it until then. You're wondering, what do you feel like is going to happen?
You're so spoiled now. So spoiled now.
It's so. I mean, I get binging if you're sick.
It's about talking about it. It's about like
storytelling.
Yeah. One of the last shows to do that. one of the last shows to do that really well was Lost, and Lost, like,
exactly.
you were clinging to your seat, and when it was done, you had all these theories as to what they were going to do and what was happening and stuff, and you would talk about it nonstop until the next episode, and then you realize you were fucking wrong, and then you have to do it all over again. And like, that's the experience, though. That's the experience, of TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
we have so many options now.
Every time I get an opportunity to see a movie that was something that was really important to me, because LA plays old school movies all the time, I always drop what I'm doing and go see, something that I had never seen in theaters before, just to make sure I get that experience in.
Yeah.
I'm happy it's still around. I just want to be able to share that with my son before he grows up in a world.
Absolutely, and the way that you can value it, like you do, and he can.
Yeah, and before he experiences a different world than I will be coming from.
Right.
So, so crossing my fingers for that, and I'm hoping that it's not a Frozen sequel.
Well, I mean that also it's a Frozen sequel. Well, that wasn't so bad. It's a good one. But yeah, the hashtag film is not dead is a big thing right now, I'm hearing, because there actually is this. People are bringing back actual film for photography as well as for filming because they don't want to see it gone. And it does have a quality that is like no other, as you know. And like Winning Time on HBO is all filmed on film right now. It adds to the set, the feeling, the vibe of
the sports show.
Yeah, the sportsman show about
John C. Reilly. I saw that show.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
it's about the Lakers, but it's all it adds to the visual of the 70s and the 80s. It brings me back to that grindy rawness of the films that were from that era. And I think it gives it more a tangible vibe, But then to see it in artistic formats too. So it's nice to know that it's trendy, I guess you could say. But it also is nice to see a retro throwback in respect to the art and format of it as well.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it's kind of like bookstores. We'll always have a Barnes and Nobles. But I want more than that. I want the Iliad. I want the Treehorn bookstore. I want the little mom pops that like we get to know the people that run it because we're artists. Type of deal too. We have to have options.
I don't want to be around for that.
Theaters. Save the theaters, man.
Yeah, save the theaters. I'm gonna hashtag that. Film's not dead on here. But I guess that's all the time we have for the show, really. I'm glad that we got a chance to talk about this subject.
Great subject.
Real quick, because I'm never have the opportunity to talk about what's coming next on the show. We got some pretty fucking exciting topics coming up. Next week, we meet with a close friend I have who is a local DJ named DJ Ted Nice. And we're going to be talking about 1994. The year of 1994 in movies.
Year of 94, right.
Which is my favorite year in film. A lot of great movies that we actually even mentioned just now came out that year. So I can't wait to go with that. And then the next week is a pretty exciting show. We have a celebrity that will be joining the show, and he is a comedian named Rick Overton. Rick Overton and I will be talking about his experience in the movie Willow.
Nice.
Which is my favorite movie of all time, and it'll be happening during the week of Willow's premiere on Disney+.
Yeah, I've never seen the original, so should I watch that before seeing this? I know.
Yeah, absolutely. I bet you'll love it, because you
sure
like there's some fantasy. The 80s was an explosion of fantasy movies, and you're a fan of Labyrinth.
Yeah.
And like,
love Labyrinth.
Yeah, this is Willow was in the shadow of Labyrinth and all that.
Freaks me out. Yeah.
Great movie. You'll love it. I can't wait to hear what you think of it.
Yeah, I definitely get check out for sure. Support that.
Thank you, Amy, so much for being on the show. I hope we'll get more opportunity, several opportunities for you to return and hang out and talk and whatnot. And I will be talking to you soon, also, hopefully. But yeah, this has been Filmbuff Live, and it's the topic of movie theaters.
All right, thank you. Keep making the arts. Bring it back.
Bring back the arts. Bring back film.
Bring back the arts. Bring back film. Bring back
Long live movies.